Growing up in the late 80s and early 90s, so many video games and video game consoles came into and out of the Esposito household. Guys, I must have played over 1,000 video games between the Nintendo Entertainment System, the Sega Genesis, the Sega Master System, you name it, we had it at our house. And in this video, I want to go over a question that has been asked of me so many times. What is your favorite video game of all time? Well, I can do you one better. I'm actually going to do my top 10 favorite video games of all time. Stick around. Before we get started, I do need to say that I only picked one game per franchise to be represented in my top 10 favorite video games of all time. I thought it was only fair. There are a lot of games in these franchises that very well could make it into my top 10, but for this video, we're only picking one per franchise. And with that said, let's get started. Coming in at number 10 is Nights into Dreams on the Sega Saturn. When my dad and I first got this game in 1996, it was really a game changer for the Sega Saturn, and we thought that Nights into Dreams, made by Sonic Team, was gonna be the new Sonic. At least that's how everybody was perceiving this title. Nights was one of these games that really did help change the landscape of platformers and 3D video games. And for the Sega Saturn, they needed a 3D title to really help boost sales because 3D was all the rage. And that's where the Sega Saturn was falling short. But man, oh man, did I ever love this game. And so did Dad, actually. Dad really loved this game. The Nights series has not been the same ever since. We really haven't gotten a true sequel to that one, or even a remake. Please, Sega, remake this game. It is one of my favorites, and so many others out there love and adore the characters and worlds that you built in this game. Thank you, Sonic Team, for this amazing, magical experience. And I just, this is a game I'll take with me forever. At number 9, we have Contra 3, The Alien Wars. Back in the day, my birthday, 1992, at McDonald's, my dad and my mom surprised me with an import copy of Contra 3, The Alien Wars. In front of all of my family and friends, this was an amazing game to open, and none of them had a clue what I was holding in my hand. But I knew what I had, and so did my dad. That's why he was filming up close with the camera. He knew that this was an incredible game, and that we were gonna have amazing memories made through this game. And he was right. This was Konami at the top of their game, I kid you not. With an amazing soundtrack, this game just blew our minds. It felt like we were playing a movie. That's what it really felt like. It felt like some Arnold Schwarzenegger amazing action film. That third level boss, the way he opens up the wall behind you and comes through and starts attacking you with everything he's got. Oh my gosh, it was one of the greatest boss battles of my entire life. This is a must-own game, must play. It's a bucket list game. Go, if you've never played Contra 3 The Alien Wars, drop everything you're doing and go play it. Coming in at number 8 is Mass Effect, and I've got to be honest with you guys, this is kind of a hard one to talk about because Mass Effect was a game that I bought with my Christmas money, the first Christmas without Dad. This game really helped take away some of that hurt, some of that pain. It helped me really just kind of hide away and get lost in this incredible sprawling universe that was so much like a movie. It felt like I was playing a movie. This new game on Xbox 360, this new BioWare game, just had all the makings of something I would love. Taking control of Commander Shepard and being able to customize your character actually early on, and just being able to go out into this world and discover. The fact that every choice you made in this game determined the type of character you became, good or bad, and ultimately would affect your ending. I loved games like that, and this was just the right game at the right time. I just lost myself in this game. I knew so much backstory on all of these characters that by the time emotional things happened in the storyline that you had to make decisions on, I was torn apart, torn inside on how I should choose, who should live, who should die. These kind of questions are not something you want to ask somebody who just lost their dad. And it was one of these games that really, it made such an impact on me. it was a game that helped me. It really was therapeutic. And so it has to be on this list for that reason alone. Coming in at number 7 is Lunar Silver Star Story Complete on the PlayStation. I remember my mom picked this up for me at Target, and I remember leaving the Target, holding it in my hands, thinking this is going to be a special game. I brought home Lunar, and it became my favorite role-playing game of all time. I think Working Designs, who localized the game, I think they knew they had something special when they first made this game. As you play through it, it feels like so much love and care went into not just remastering this game, but in the way they packaged it too. It was one of the most incredible video game packages I'd ever gotten, with a beautiful cloth map of the entire world, an incredible soundtrack bundled in with a making of. I remember watching that making of and just falling in love with the way the game was made. It was such a great idea to put that making of in the game package, because it really helped you as the gamer and the player understand the love and care and the human talent and work that actually went into making this game. And that gave me such a huge appreciation of it. If you play it today, it might not be perfect. It might not be the perfect timing. It's still a great game and an amazing story that you have to experience. I love and cherish this game to this day. Coming in at number 6 is Sonic CD. Back in '93, getting it for Christmas with my cousins in New York, and then later on collecting the Japanese import of Sonic CD back in 2001. You know that me and this game have some amazing history, and I just loved it. I fell in love with the game and its mechanics, the time traveling, the Sega CD Red Book audio with a soundtrack by Spencer Nielsen, the new animations, new characters like Amy. This was just one of those games that just upped everything. It felt like a true sequel, and in many ways it was a sequel to the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic CD is the total Sonic package for me, honestly. I love everything about it. I love the maturity. There's a weird sense of maturity that I get from playing Sonic CD, and I think it's because of some of the graphical choices and tones. To this day, it's my favorite Sonic game. I remember when the Xbox 360 remaster came out, I thought it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. They made the game widescreen. Christian Whitehead just went in and tweaked and fine-tuned it to perfection. There's so much to do, so much going on. I just love Sonic CD. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and that is why it's on this list. Coming in at number 5, Super Mario 64 changed the gaming landscape. And of all the Mario games out there, this is the one I think that just blew me away the most. Playing a game in 3 dimensions, that was unheard of back in 1996. The fact that you could just like bend Mario's face around and play with him on the front title screen it just showed you that this game was all about freedom. And as you explore each and every stage, every world, and collecting all the power stars, and this was the one that just changed everything. And to this day, when I play through any of the underwater stages in Super Mario 64 and I hear that underwater music, I can't help but get so nostalgic. This game, I get kind of emotional playing this game, because this was a game I spent a lot of time playing with my dad and having him watch me play it. And a lot of it's caught on tape. A lot of you probably have seen that episode of My Retro Life. If you haven't, go back and watch it. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It really holds a special place in my heart. Coming in at number 4, it's Phantasy Star Online. A lot of you who are familiar with the channel probably have no doubt in your mind that I was going to put this on the list. It felt like Sega was back. And there was so much hope and so much excitement around a game like Phantasy Star Online, which was this big online massive multiplayer game that I'd never played a game like that before, in a 3D world with these great sci-fi characters and the incredible customization that you had for each of your characters, and all the weapons you can find as you go out into dungeons and explore with other people that you're playing with online. I remember I would take my Dreamcast and my keyboard to my mom's house every other weekend when she had custody of me, and I would basically lose myself in Phantasy Star Online. It was like I showed up at my mom's house. Okay, Mom, goodbye. I played this game so much, I got so addicted to it that I actually broke my Sega Dreamcast. I was playing it late one night and I literally heard the fan like blow up inside the Dreamcast, and we had to get another Sega Dreamcast. That's how much I loved this game, and that's why it's so high up on this list. And for my number 3 pick, I had to go with another Sega game, and that game is Shenmue on the Sega Dreamcast. Shenmue was a game that really just transported me into another world. This world being 1986 Japan in a small town, following the amazing story of Ryo Hazuki as he tries to avenge his father's death. I got this game in Christmas of 2000, and at that point, it felt like Sega was ready to take back their claim to fame. I love this game. I love its story. I love everything about the almost life simulation of going through, asking all these characters and living day to day, going back home and having to go to bed. You know, this day to night cycle that they had in the game was so realistic. The NPCs, you know, the non-playable characters were just, they were so lifelike at this time. Now you look at it now and you're like, oh, it looks dated and stuff, but you gotta understand nobody had seen anything like this. The attention to detail and the realism of these characters. And even going to the arcade, you'd visit that arcade and be able to play old Sega games from 1986, including some of my favorite games of all time. I cheated a little bit here because Space Harrier is a game that's in the arcade that you visit in Shenmue, and that's one of my favorite games of all time. And so I cheated a little bit. Rather than put that on this list, I bundled it in with this pick because it's inside Shenmue, and actually it's my favorite way to play Space Harrier. It was such an amazing sort of swan song for Sega to go out on with their Dreamcast console. I love Shenmue. It's one of my favorite games of all time. All right, guys, for my number 2 pick, I knew it had to be a game from the Castlevania series. So Castlevania Symphony of the Night, when it came out, changed everything we thought was possible with Castlevania as a franchise. Castlevania Symphony of the Night started what everybody would later come to know as the Metroidvania style of games, and the Metroidvania Castlevania games. Those games as a whole are some of the most greatest experiences in my entire life gaming. I love the game inside and out. From the first moments of the game, controlling Alucard, the son of Dracula. Dracula spelled backwards, Alucard. I remember thinking that was so cool back when I was a kid. That opening music, I mean, it just cuts through you like a knife. I'm serious, like a dagger in the heart. The way it walks you through the game, when you start out with all of your abilities and special powers, and then right at the beginning, death comes in and steals them all from you, and you realize at that point, oh man, I've got to go through this giant castle and this giant map and find all those power-ups that I just had a little taste of. I got to go through and find them all again. They're somewhere scattered in this giant maze. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, oh my gosh, one of my favorite games from probably my favorite gaming franchise of all time. But it's not my favorite game of all time. Nope, that one goes to my number 1 pick, coming up right now. All right, and coming in at number 1 is, surprise, surprise, Mega Man 2 on the Nintendo Entertainment System. I've mentioned it before on this channel. I've actually said before in live streams, this is my favorite game of all time. This is the question I get asked so many times. What's your favorite game of all time? It's Mega Man 2 on the NES. In 1990, I had gone to my cousin's house and experienced this game for the first time, and it blew my mind. It was a revelation. The fact that this game, just the pumping soundtrack, the amazing colorful graphics with this character that was so fun to pretend like you were him. I used to go around and pretend like I was Mega Man. I would take a koozie that you'd put like soda cans that my parents had and put the koozie over my hand to make it look like a Mega Buster, and I'd go around and pretend that I was Mega Man. I loved this character so much. After we went to New York and I experienced the game for the first time and it blew my mind, my parents surprised me with it like a month or 2 later, and it was just the most amazing non-eventful surprise. As far as it wasn't like a birthday or Christmas, they just wanted to do something nice for me. And Dad caught it on tape, and it's one of the most amazing moments of my retro life. When I think about like my favorite experience, it's this one. I think this is like the most amazing moment, and because it's my favorite video game of all time, captured in such a way with so much heart behind it. When I think of my mom and dad and all that they did for me back in those days, this moment captures it at its purest. And I'm so thankful that Dad got this on tape. And really, when I think of so much of my early childhood and the amazing times I had as a kid with Nintendo and the innocence and the imagination that derived from so many of those games, Mega Man 2 embodies so much of that, all of that. If somebody were to say to me, hey, I'm gonna hand you this NES game, and on this cartridge holds the power of your entire childhood, all of the memories, all of the amazing moments with your family and your friends, and all of that amazing magic that was the innocence of being a young gamer in the early 90s, late 80s with Nintendo. All of that is captured on this cartridge. It's here. Here, take it. That's what Mega Man 2 is for me. I literally can take that game and play it, and on that cartridge, it all comes flooding back. It's the game that means the most to me, and I think it will forever. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching this top 10 video, my top 10 favorite games of all time. I want to know, are any of the games on my list perhaps on your list? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your favorite games. Thank you so much for being a part of this channel. Each and every one of you that likes, comments, and subscribes are a huge part of what I am doing here on this channel with my retro life. If this is your first time to the channel, please do consider subscribing. I love talking about my game crazy family and all of the amazing memories and moments that we shared together, most of which were caught on tape by my dad. I just want to say thank you. I'll catch you next time.